design patterns? It's really because I just graduated from Maker Square about 3 weeks ago, and I've been interviewing, and this thing comes up like 3 times in a row on my interviews. Like, do you know this design pattern? And I'll be like, and then like later I'll look it up, and it's like, yeah, I totally know that. I just didn't know what it's called. So I decide I have to make a talk on design patterns, and also I found this awesome template that it's very powerful, so I decided to use it. So what is a design pattern? So it's really just the ways people do things. So it's really nothing special, and it is like a lot of programming lingos. Like, it is made popular by Game of Four's books about in 1994. Like, this four people wrote this book about design patterns, and now everybody reads it. It's like, oh, this is brilliant. So that's all like jump into this design pattern ship. So examples of design patterns, like MVC, model view controller, is a kind of design pattern. So like if you actually do like web, if you use any framework, you probably use MVC already. So you are using a design pattern. And all these are design patterns. So it is really, a lot of things is like you are already using it, you just didn't know it yet. So, and that's during the interview when people say, do you know this? And then you say, but you actually know it, and that's really angers me. I probably lost a couple of jobs because of that. But yeah, so there's basically, this is specifically from the book, the 1994 book. Yeah, it's about 20 years, but a lot of these patterns still transcend till now. And this is specifically for object-oriented programming. And there's 3 big categories of patterns, and there's creational, structural, and behavioral. There's like 28 of them total. And so here are all the creational patterns. So creation pattern is just like how you create your object. And to be honest, I did not read through all of them, but the one that comes up in every interview is the singleton pattern. Like, everybody will like, do you know singleton patterns? And I'm like, but singleton patterns basically is just a class that only have one instance. That's all. So I bet all you guys use it. You just didn't know it's called singleton. So the classic example of singleton is a database. So most of the time you have one database, one big database for your project. So for your app, you only have one database object. And why you use only one, it's first, you don't need many, you just need one database. And also, big thing is every time you use the database, you do a query, you're trying to insert something, you don't want to initialize the database, you don't want to connect to your database again. So the idea is you have this instance, you have this class, you initialize, you create your object first, and then you connect to the database, and that's it. You don't have to do it every time. So that's kind of the idea of singleton patterns. And then there's like other ways to, basically this is kind of like the pattern. So there's other ways to create other objects, depends on what's the usage for your object is, and then you use different patterns. But like singleton is like specific for things that's specific, you only have one in your application. And there's structural patterns, and this is kind of deal with a different. So correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm definitely not the expert. And this is kind of deal with the relationship between different objects. I think one I would say, like I read about, is the composite method, and this is used a lot in graphic type application. So a lot of time, like graphic, you have this. For example, you have a game and you have all these 10 enemies, and you want to move these 10 enemies together. So the composite is basically you group them together, you add these 10 enemies to a list, and then you do one action on these 10 enemies. So instead of do this one and then do the next one. You group them together and then do it all together. So that's kind of like what they mean by structural pattern. And then like also like adapter. It's like you have a three-way plugs, and then now you want to use a two-way plug. So you have these two interfaces, a little bit different, and then you will make this adapter class that will kind of join them together. So yeah, so this is the kind of structural patterns. And there's the behavioral patterns. I kind of think this is kind of a algorithm type that you can use to improve like your speed or anything. For example, I think one good one they use a lot is the memento. So it's basically you remember the function you run before, so next time you run it, you don't have to run it again. You just have to look up, oh, this is my previous result. I just have to use it. So I think one of the big thing I first used this is when we're doing Fibonacci sequence, and then you do F1, and then F2, F3 is F1 plus F2. But if you do this on Fn, and your runtime is 2 to the n, and that's terrible. But if you remember all your previous result, you don't need to calculate. You don't have this tree structure that you have to calculate. You just have to look up the previous result. So now you have all of n runtime. So now, basically, you're using this memento pattern to remember your previous result, so you don't have to calculate again. So that's kind of that. And then a lot of it is kind of like this, so tricks you can do. So kind of more like algorithm type of stuff. So that's all the patterns. And you also hear anti-patterns. So what is anti-pattern? Is basically the ways people do things, but they are wrong. So don't do that. And, I see this, the first time I saw this is when I was trying to learn promises, which is in JavaScript. And I was trying to do my homework. I was having promises inside of promises, and then everything just blows up in the end, nothing works. And I tried to Google, and then people I said, yeah, this is a bigger thing that beginners mistake, so don't do that. And that's what they call anti-pattern. They call it, this is the anti-pattern. They did not say don't do that, they just keep saying this is an anti-pattern. But if you see that, it means don't do it. So yeah, that's kind of all. And so I did the Wikipedia, and there's the YouTube tutorial that basically talks about all the patterns I listed, which is good. It's a good one. And then the Harvard CS 164, it's a class after CS 50, and like the lecture 4 is specifically talk about design patterns. And the last one is a website that talks about design pattern. So that's all. Thank you.
So after you learned patterns, did you go through some of your projects and start to recognize patterns you used?
Yeah, I definitely like the singleton is a big one, and then it's like after I read about it, it's like, yeah, this is like I use this all the time. A lot of my projects not that big, so a lot of objects like you only have one object. For example, like we have this kind of it's kind of a stupid game. It's a hangman, but it's a competitive hangman, so like two people can guess at the same time. I don't know what we're thinking when we did the project, but like we have one room, so there's always one room. So room is a singleton. So patterns like this, like a lot of things really like if you've been programming, you did not read about this first, but I mean, you've been using it. You just don't know what it's called, and that's going to get you in the interview. So read about it.
Have you done any interviews after you looked up design patterns?
Not yet, but I have 2 calls tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to it.
Good luck. Sending you good vibes.
Thank you.
Do they usually ask you about design patterns in your phone interview, or is it something once you get towards the end, or
It
from
come
your
out.
experience?
It come out 2 is in my phone interview, and 1 is on site, so it can be anywhere.
Where did you say you graduated from?
Maker Square or Hack Reactor. So
What exactly is that?
it's a 3-month boot camp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like general stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like general
Okay.
stuff. if you're still researching the topic for your interviews, some of the things that we've asked about in our interviews are, because we code in Ruby, and so some of those things are inheritance versus composition, when you would use one versus when you would use another, and polymorphic associations, things like that.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Well, Stacy was the only one who signed up, so does anyone else want to give an impromptu 5-minute talk on something you learned recently? No? Well, the other thing we do is we just go around and introduce ourselves and talk about like what we do and where we work and what we're interested in getting out of Women Who Code. So I'm Holly Gibson. I founded Women Who Code Austin 3.5 years ago while I was going through Maker Square, the very first class. And we had like 10 people who came to the first meeting, and now we have over 2,200 members. It's crazy. Ophelia helps me, Karen helps me, so we have a great team of like 15 ladies now. Since we have, I think, 10 events a month. So if you haven't looked on Meetup, we have a Python class, we have a React Meetup, we have an Android Meetup, we have a lot. So there's something for everyone. I work now as a team lead at Praxent. They're a software consultancy, so it changes project to project what I'm working on. Currently I'm doing Angular and TypeScript with Electron. It's a Windows mobile tablet app, which is weird. And then I think my next project might be Ruby in a couple weeks. The project before this was Ember with Node. So it just changes all the time. So I like that. I like learning a lot. I find it very stimulating. Sometimes it's stressful, but the people I work with are really nice, so that helps. Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Hannah Oppenheimer. I just moved to Austin, and I've been a developer for maybe 3 or 4 years, probably more like 3. But actually, my most recent job, I'm a designer. So I kind of miss GitHub. I was actually struggling this week on the fact that I'm collaborating with another designer who's also remote. So when you're doing that with development, it's super easy. You just push out a PR, and if there's conflicts between your PR and their PR, you merge them. That doesn't exist in design. So if they change a file and you change a file, you have to manually figure out, what did you do? What did I do? How should we space this out? And like 2 days ago, a beta launched for a product that does kind of get changes for design in Sketch. I'm really excited about that. That wasn't one of your questions, but
No, that's cool.
that would be interesting. And I'm looking for friends, so hang out with me, please. That's it.
I'll be your friend. And not just on Twitter.
Can I ask what designers do? Just, I actually have no idea.
Yeah, so I think it totally ranges where you work and how many people you work with. I've always worked on small teams. I've only worked in startups really and nonprofits. So my range goes from project management, like figuring out what I'm actually gonna do. Like no one's actually sitting there telling me what to work on. I have to figure that out. So that means I have to talk to users. I have to do usability tests, user studies, interviews, go on site. I work for a health tech company, and I always have. That's been my whole career. So I usually end up at a medical practice in the waiting room, working with front desk staff people, working with doctors and things like that, figuring out what's wrong with their medical software. It's like hideous, really hard to use. And I design the apps using mostly Sketch. I used to use Photoshop, but Sketch has become the easiest tool for web design. And then when I'm done designing it in Sketch, after getting it reviewed by people, if I'm working with another designer, we can pair design on it. So using Screen Hero, we might, Screen Hero is a tool where you can share the same computer basically, and we'll work together on it and then share it with other people on our team. They'll give feedback, we'll make changes, and then kind of like a PR. Pull request, sorry, no jargon. And then after it's done, a designer could pass it off to a front-end developer to say, make it happen. But usually I'm that person as well. So, which is really been interesting at the new job, because at my new job there's actually front-end developers. So they introduced me to a new tool that actually you export your design from Sketch, and it automatically generates all the hex codes for the colors, all the font styles, and font pixel height, size, whatever. And so that's been weird because I have to like double check my work now, because before it was just me doing it. So I was like, yeah, that looks like what I did. All right. So yeah, but yeah, making the CSS and Sass, HTML. Sometimes it involves JavaScript, but usually designers, people with a designer title, don't have to know JavaScript.
Cool.
I'm Erin. I just moved here a couple weeks ago from Seattle. Moved here because my partner is helping run her family business, which is the Magnolia Cafes. So we thought that was a good reason to move here. I just graduated from Block.io, which is an online sort of mentorship style boot camp, where we had like meetings every week, or twice a week, and sort of did some like screen hero stuff and like that sort of like mentorship, worked on projects, that kind of thing. My background is in system admin. In Seattle, I was the system admin at the Stranger, which is their weekly newspaper, like
Okay.
all weekly basically. And then before that, I was a Mac genius for 5 years. So I'm really excited about coding. It's kind of like one of those things where I was like, why haven't I done this earlier? Like, I got tired of telling people to restart their computers. I wanted to actually be a little more creative, and I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm looking for work, preferably some Ruby work, but I also have been digging into Angular lately, and I'm liking that, so, yeah.
Restarting computers works.
Especially when they're Macs.
My coworker who's been programming for like 25 years was like, my Bluetooth mouse isn't working. I have to go find a wire mouse. Where is a wire mouse? I said, did you try restarting your computer? He was like, oh, shut up. I was like, try it. It worked. Yeah. I was like, this is a smart one.
Every time.
Hi, my name is Christy. My story has changed a little bit, as you know. Previously, the last time I was here, I think I introed myself by saying I'm trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. And I've done computer science, and all those languages are obsolete. But I volunteered with Women Who Code. Was it just 2 weekends ago?
2 weekends ago.
At the Diversity Hackathon, and on a whim, I had pitched an idea. The next day, we found a coder, and it was just the two of us. I haven't coded in a long time, and she had just graduated from Galvanize,
Yeah.
I think it was. So I just let her do her thing, and we came up with an app, and we won one of the prizes.
Cool.
So now, sorry, that's I want to take it further, and I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to take it, and that's where I'm at.
Very awesome.
And we're of course looking for some BAP coders.
What's the product?
Yeah,
What's your elevator?
What's the app?
So far it's called Three Little Pigs, and it's basically an app for if you have kids, and I do recommend kids, just don't get married. Kids are great. And so when I go with my, it's meant multi-purpose, and basically my pitch was that when I take my kids out and they want a drink, especially the littlest one, because he loves sugar, anything with sugar, you know. And so we're at a restaurant and a soda is like $2, and I can tell him, look, you know we can get a soda for 25 cents, and plus I don't want him to have the sugary drink. So the app, what it does is it lets him decide right then and there whether or not he wants to have the drink for the $2, which I was willing to spend anyways, wait till we go somewhere else, go home and get it for 25 cents, and I will split that difference with him and put it in a savings account for him and pay him interest. Or if he forgoes the whole thing completely, I'll split the difference between that full price with him. And so in the app separates the banks out into 3 things: dreams, goals, and needs, or wants, not needs. Needs are covered. And eventually I also want to do, teach kids financial concepts like compounding interest and how to save. And, you know, I don't know if you guys have heard of the marshmallow study, that delayed gratification proves success later on.
It's a really cute study to watch.
My son right now would eat the bag, but it just won't wait. And so that's basically the premise of the app.
That's so cool.
And I'm hoping to go further with it and teach them other concepts, values, integrity, that kind of stuff, social values also, and to link it into things by giving them points for doing things like recycling, or, you know, turning off the lights, turning off the water when you brush your teeth, that kind of stuff that most parents that I see don't teach their kids, and then they go around and they waste energy, which is not always renewable. So that's
true. No, I am married, and when I
get out now while you still can. Get out now while it's still good.
It's good. It's been 10 years and
Right.
we've gone through therapy 3 times.
What is it? Get out now while it's still
That's what you
good.
have to do. Is
Don't wait until it goes
go
bad.
to therapy now before it gets bad. You know, checkup. Annual checkup. Just everyone fine? We're all good here? Great. But when he got married, he didn't turn lights off. He didn't close windows when he turned the air conditioning on. And I was like, do you see dollar bills flying up the window? That's what I see. But it's just different parenting styles, you know?
Right, and one of the reasons for that is I teach my kids to turn the lights off, and then we'd go visit other people, and they'd be like, oh, they're home, the light's on. I'm like, no, they never turn their lights off. It's not that, you know, the lights are on, they're home, they just never turn it off. Or the other day, we were in the bathroom, and this woman had her son in there, and she's taking the paper towels, and it's like, 2 for me, 2 for you. And I'm sitting here going, what do you think you're teaching this kid? Have you thought about it? I mean, I understand, because I teach my kids when they wash their hands inside, outside, in between, but the 2 for me, 2 for you doesn't make you think about why am I taking 2 things when I don't have to. And it really bugs me when people are like taking rolls of paper to wipe their hands. I'm just like, do you know how much water it takes to make paper?
There's a TED Talk on that specific issue. How to wash your hands with 1 paper towel.
Shake 15 times.
No, but it's not just that. I mean, it's just, and it might be because I come from a different country, and I know that over there, as in a lot of third world countries, people, you know, they write on the margins of paper, and here we are, and I'm trying to do this at work. You know how, I don't know if you're in a company and you have the separator page to differentiate your stuff from other people's stuff, and I have a pile this big. That's just my separator page, and that bugs me. And so yes, it's the little things that count, and unless you teach them to the kids, they're not gonna know, and they're not gonna know to ask. So,
Thank you for making a difference.
Yeah.
Colin.
Well, I can't follow that up. Sure. Yeah, I myself made the transition into development last year to General Studies full-time course. And yeah, I've been part of Women Who Code for the past year or so, year and a half. Anyway, big support of Women Who Code, love it. Did it in San Francisco. I did a short stint last year in the Bay Area. Wasn't my favorite, but I'm super happy to be back in Austin, and I love our community, our tech community here. Everyone's super welcoming, as you can see here, Women Who Code. yeah, tomorrow I start my, a new job and I'm super excited.
Cool.
That's lucky you. I never did that something funny. Yeah, it's been an awesome time, and again, like, to welcome again to all the newbies here in the room. I think there's like 3 or 4, which is awesome. You've come to Bright City / Right Meetup, and yeah, welcome to y'all.
Where are you starting tomorrow?
So it's a startup called Ticket Bud,
Cool.
and they're based out of WeWork in University Park.
Oh,
So
cool.
not too far away from here.
Say hi to Jordan for me.
Will do.
Sissy.
Hi, I'm Cece. So I want to tell the story of how I actually come to Women Who Code. So in my previous life, I was a hardware engineer, and I kind of sort of got transferred to this software role in the hardware company, and that's why I started to go to, like, I did not know any programming at the time. Well, I know how to write for loops, but that's pretty much it. And then I started to go to programming meetups, and I think Women Who Code is the first one I went. I went to I think it's probably the first lightning talk this year. And yeah, and then after that, I decided, I'm just gonna be a full-time software engineer because this is awesome. This is much better. So I quit my job, and then I joined Maker Square, and then I just graduated Maker Square about 3 weeks ago. So yeah, and I definitely the lightning talk at the beginning of this year. There's a lot more speakers than one. A lot of good speakers, better than me too. But yeah, I do think that event inspired me to be here today. And I don't have a job yet, but I think I'm pretty close. So I'm in a good place. And thank you. I think all the community.
Cool.
Hi, Ophelia again. I already told you how long I've been with Women in Code, so I'll skip that spiel. But I currently do QA for a company that is based out of Sydney. They had an office here, but they closed that office, so now I work remotely.
But they kept you because you're amazing.
Yeah, well, I said I'm not going, so yeah, so they've let me stay. So I currently do that. So I sympathize with like trying to like figure out like your balance of like not seeing anyone all the time. And then as soon as my boyfriend gets home, I'm like, hi, how was your day? That was great. So totally normal. Trying to think of. Well, I can tell you, a year and a half ago, I just had come from Chicago and I was working in logistics. Totally very different than tech. But my boyfriend is a developer, so he's the one that kind of got me into this whole like what is tech thing and inspired me to go out on my own little venture. And then I moved here and I worked for a tech company, and at that company I had a few opportunities to do, explore more about what tech was about and just the environment and all the other opportunities that were available. And then I got a new job almost a year ago, and that it's a startup, which is very like volatile in terms of like what you do. Like sometimes you are a project manager and you're not touching any code, but sometimes you are fixing things. So it's been a wonderful little ride so far. So I've enjoyed every little bit of it. But that is me so far. Cool. Do you have any questions?
No, look at me.
Your turn.
So, hello everybody. My name is Chuwei, and it means clarity in Chinese.
How pretty.
And I have seen a few phrases people like Holly. I usually go to Women Who Code meetups because I found this is the most supportive and very close, nice group that we can actually talk with each other and know each other. Yeah, so that's by far my favorite meetup. And I'm actually a visual designer turned web developer, and I just had my first job, and I will start next week. So I'm excited and also a bit like unsure because it will be my first dev job. So any suggestions or tips?
Yeah.
Totally welcome to how to survive your first week, first month.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. There aren't any
Yeah.
stupid questions.
Okay.
What kind of company are you working at?
It's called Malazan Software. It's a mid-sized companies. We do tools for smaller banks and credit unions. Yeah, I met everybody on my team. They are great and all men, no women.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but that's expected.
Well, if you can, get on the Women Who Code Slack group if you're not on there. We have a lot of channels on there so you can ask questions. We have the Coder Lounge, we have the front end developers, we have Random where we post all the cat videos. So.
Is that wwc.austin.slack?
It's wwc/ATX or dash.
ATX.
If you check our Twitter, we tweet out how to sign up. I made an automated sign up form because I got tired of inputting everyone's emails. So there's a Heroku app you can sign up on. It'll
Nice.
automatically invite you.
Cool.
It's on our Twitter.
How did you come into dev?
How? Because when I was a visual designer, I often need to like work on different projects with web developers. And I think at that time I got interested in what they were doing. So actually my first step job is like working for a language school here in Austin, but it's like startup and I have to do administrative stuff, and also like coding, and it's not like coding center. Yeah. And that's like solo project, so I cannot like work with other devs. So I decided to quit this May, and after joined Maker Square to like triple boost my career. And
Cool.
Good for you. That's awesome.
so any suggestions with code?
Yeah. We also have the hack nights. So if you ever have a question or something, you come to the hack nights. People just hack on their projects. It's next Monday.
I'm Leah, and I also just moved here from DC. I did the Women Who Code in DC group, but once I graduated school, I got a job at the Pentagon as a web designer, and so I was working there. And for me, it was a good first job, but I think there were a lot of limitations that came with the job, just like working with the government, and like the DoD had a lot of its budget cut. So as far as like working on like Macs and using all the up-to-date software and like industry standards, that wasn't really a thing. So I kind of had to pull a few teeth as far as like trying to like make a case for and like initiate like UX standards, and I basically did a lot of what you said, where it's like your role, it really depends on the company. Some people have specialists for each part of the design process, and then some places they just have like 3 designers and you're responsible for everything up to like the back end coding. And so that was like sort of my role, was like, you know, gather all the requirements, meet with all like the leadership and generals and stuff, and like see what they want. And so I got to work on like a few really good, well, fun projects. I got to do the Army app, and I got to do the redesign the Army Out Middle, which is like their news site. And when I was working there, though, I'm going pretty deep, but I decided to. I think when you work in the Pentagon, there are certain hierarchy structures that you have to abide to, and just women in general weren't very respected there. And young, I mean, no one really knew my name. I was like kind of referred to as like little girl and like honey. Just there are certain instances, like after working there for 2 years, I kind of just like, the respect level just wasn't there yet, and so I decided that I was gonna like quit and try and pursue other like, I really like the startup. All my friends after school, they worked at startups and stuff, so I really like that whole arena. And so I've just I'd never been west of West Virginia, so when I quit, I went on like a road trip, and so I was like interviewing cities, and Austin was my favorite one, so I
With
packed up.
tacos, right?
Yeah.
Breakfast tacos.
I just packed in my car and like drove down here, and so I've been here for about 2 weeks. But I'm also in the stage of aggressive friend making, so and aggressive job searching. So
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm so proud of you.
That's crazy.
How far did you go on your road trip?
I got all the way to Denver, and then like my car was sort of like it started to like have like seizures, and so I was like, oh, I think we're gonna call it. You had a good run, man. Like you had a good run. We're gonna go back now, just make sure we make it through. So
Too far above sea
no,
level.
yeah, no AAA needs to be called. So
Agreed. Cool. Well, welcome to Austin and good luck.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Selena and I also have relocated but from Houston. I've been here for 5 months and I was working in Houston at a startup focused on predictive analytics. The company couldn't get funding and I was wearing many hats doing everything from project management to marketing to FDA approval. Unfortunately, the company was a really good disruptive company but couldn't get funding, so I ended up coming here hoping to find, tech work, which I haven't found yet because my background is very different from development work. I have an SAP background and more of a program and project management background. So then I decided to start looking into different options like in developers courses and different types of what you call the boot camps. So I'm evaluating Galvanize and what's the other one? The other one is Dev Boot Camp.
General Assembly.
Oh, that's another one I've heard of.
There's actually 7 here in Austin.
Yeah.
And some of them have scholarships for women, so I would definitely check that out. I know Galvanize does, the Iron Yard does, Hack Reactor does not. Dev Boot Camp, I believe, does have a partial scholarship, so I would check out that. Just Google Austin Boot Camp scholarship and see what comes up.
Actually, Hack Reactor pledged to give several millions of dollars over the course of the next 2 years, so there you have a site now where you can apply.
Okay, awesome.
So it doesn't say, it's very vague about it, like it's not saying like you're applying for like $10,000 scholarship or anything, it's just like, I think it's merit based, not sure what
That means.
else, but if you're welcome to check it out or email them, I'm sure they'll be happy to give you more information.
Also check our Twitter, www.codeatx, because we tweet out the links for all the scholarships.
Oh, really? Okay.
We tweet out tickets to conferences that people are giving away, we tweet out scholarships, so check us out, we're amazing. But I got a scholarship, a partial scholarship to go to my boot camp 3 years ago, and so that's how I was able to do it.
So anyway, so I'm evaluating these different boot camps. In the meantime, I'm just trying to learn on my own, trying to learn Python. So if anybody knows is a Python expert here, I'm trying to focus and learn it on my own in the meantime while I'm evaluating and preparing for the boot camps to start in January.
We actually have a Python class, it's the 3rd Wednesday of the month, so if you go on Meetup, to our Meetup, Women Who Code Austin, it's at Rackspace because they do a lot of Python there. So yeah, we've been doing it for 2 years now at Rackspace. I started it 2 years ago so that I would learn Python. There's no better way to learn than to teach it. But now I have some excellent people who have taken it over. So there's an intermediate Python, it's Python and data science, and then a beginner Python class. So, check it out.
We'll go to the back. I'm Grace, and I haven't been to one of these in a while. I came to one, but since I got hired by UT, they train you on the job. They have a program where they train people because they work with such an archaic language and they have a mainframe. And I didn't even know that was a thing. But it's natural and then some Python and Django. But I did that in September last year, and I've been working in the registrar for 6 months. And I want to start coming to these again because I'm feeling kind of uneasy. Definitely more than the imposter syndrome thing. I'm kind of a slow learner. And it also has, I wouldn't know how to put together an app outside of the UT setting where these very smart people have already put together this framework and the UT Direct everything is just built already in a system that you have to work with very specifically. So we want to try to learn skills that are more relevant to outside places, and I had a really hard time teaching myself, so I'm really glad that I think natural was an easy language to learn on, or easier than just starting with Python. I'm looking forward to starting to learn Python the hard way. And it does have its, they don't pay very well. I made more as a teacher, as a senior developer even. I think some teachers make more than what the senior developers make. So there's that, and then there is some, I work with a lot of women there actually, but there is some weird stuff where it's like, now when you go demo to the registrar, don't tell him this is a system he should use. Suggest it. You know how women are told, don't be too demanding. Well, don't be too demanding. I had that talk with someone. Yeah. So it's still kind of like some stuffy old people. So yeah, I'm glad to be. I like the support and the just general support.
Cool.
So yeah, learn Python the hard way is a good course to go through. You'll build an app with that course. If you're also interested in learning JavaScript or React, our React meetup is going to start a group, I think this month, where we're just going to build an app together. Like, we're going to go through a tutorial. So that's third Wednesday of the month at Atlassian. So if anyone wants to learn React, I'm doing that. So I'll see you there.
Hi, I'm Cecilia. I also just moved here last Friday, so also aggressively looking for friends. Were you at FedEx earlier today?
I was.
Yeah. I went there to print off my resume, and then literally like an hour later, I was like hired on the spot at some really cool restaurant. So I was like, this is a good day.
Because in the meantime, like I still have to bring in money to pay the bills or things. So I just got the gig with Wags where you dog walk.
Nice.
Yeah. I just found that out today too. After I went to FedEx to print out more resumes.
That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You need to be friends with them.
Still got my paper.
It was like, okay, 5, 6. Okay, so I printed off like 10, and I was like, and then the first one was like, I spent $10 for no reason.
Yeah. Now you get
be
money.
prepared.
Yeah.
You know?
Austin is a really small city. It's amazing how often you run into
Yeah.
people.
You looked so familiar. You walked in, I was like, yeah. I moved here last week, and then I actually came to Austin Startup Week. Was that a month ago almost?
Yeah.
To figure out what I was gonna do, because I graduated college in 2014, and then I went to LA and did the whole I want to be a screenwriter, worked at NBC. Decided that wasn't my jam. Went and found myself for a year, and then ended up deciding that I really liked web development, and kind of had that problem where everybody's like, oh, that's great, you're a woman and you're Latina, like this is great for you. And I was like, okay, cool, but what do I do with that? Like, what are the options? Can you learn on the job? Like, do you have to go to a school? And so that's actually why I came to Austin Startup Week, to figure out what the avenues were. And I ended up landing on either it can take you a long time to learn on the job because you have to start somewhere else and kind of like jump a ladder, I guess, would be the way that it looked to me. Or you can start at a coding boot camp, and Galvanize ended up being kind of my home base in general, just because they had so many happenings going on there for Startup Week, and I just really liked what they had going on. Their 6-month program seemed really great, and I got to work with some of the instructors and workshops, and so I came here to start the course, like the pre-courses last week, and then I got into the 6-month program that starts in February. So, yeah, I'm really excited.
Awesome.
Austin's dope. Everybody's so nice. Terrible.
Well, that's because all the bad drivers from everywhere live here. So you don't know who's driving. It could be, California roll to stop. It could be Rhode Island turn as soon as it's green. You don't know who's driving styles out there.
Boston, you're halfway out in the
Boston,
intersection
yes.
before the
So,
right
the
turns.
Texas people are the slow ones.
Yes.
They're really
Oh.
slow, and you're like, what?
Right.
You're not going to see them.
I feel like coming from Seattle, like everyone is like so like cautious. Like if you're at a stop sign with like you come to a stop sign with any other person, everyone's like, no, you go, no, you go, no, you go, no, you go. Yeah, like for 5 minutes.
I'm the driver cutting everyone off left in LA, so.
I got honked at and like aggressively, like someone drove in front of me and then I was like, whoa bro, it wasn't personal.
So that's all the introductions.
Can I interject real quick?
Yes.
For those of you who are looking for jobs or whatever, if you want to, I'll be more than happy to take a look at your resumes and I was gonna say modernize, but I don't wanna say pretty it up, but jazz it up for you a little bit. I used to do editing. I used to be a managing editor. So if you need any help with that, let me know.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one.
So, since we don't have any more speakers, I thought for like the beginners and everything, we could just have a Ask Holly Anything session, since there's nothing else. So, you guys can ask me whatever you want.
So how many Slack channels do you have? Like Slack organizations do you have, and how do you manage if you have like 5?
You're saying like how many Slack groups am I? I'm in 4 or 5, but I only have 3 that I'm in currently. So I have the Women Who Code, I have my work, and then I have the one my husband made for us, for our own family. He's a super nerd. Well, obviously work comes first, so if anyone slacks me through work, that's what I check first. Most of the ones on our family are automated. It's like our calendar reminding me of what's going on, or to-dos and tasks and stuff. Occasionally we'll chat, my husband and I. But Women Who Code, usually I just go in there on my breaks to see like what people are saying. We don't really moderate because everyone is so friendly and welcoming. But I do get in there just to make sure like people are being nice to each other. If there's a conversation going out of hand, usually someone contacts me, someone else, and they're like, hey, have you seen what they're talking about in Coder Lounge? Then I might jump in there and be like, hey everyone, let's be friends. But mostly everyone's supportive. And then sometimes I've joined Slack groups for conferences, but I only keep them open while I'm at the conference. I can't belong to everything, so I closed a lot of the meetup ones, like Austin on Rails and stuff that I was in, because I'm just like, I'm not doing Rails anymore, so it didn't make sense for me to be in that group.
Because like every meetup I go to, I join there, so I have like 10. It's like, I can't finish.
I focus on like what I'm currently doing. So like right now I'm doing a lot of Angular, but there isn't an Angular meetup that I know of in Austin. So I'm just not in that. Having my coworkers, I can ask them if I have a question or go on Stack Overflow. So I see Slack as more like social. So
I also have an additional question to Slack because I was thinking about using it, but is it very similar to GitHub where it's collaborative, or is it more, you're saying it's a social tool, but how?
it's like a messaging, like HipChat.
Oh, okay. I know, yes.
I see your shirt. You're wearing a HipChat guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost exactly like HipChat. So you have your different rooms or channels, and you can interact with people. There's private rooms, there's public. I don't even know how many we have on Women Who Code because people can make a new channel. So we have like the moms channel and all kinds of channels. It's cool.
The Google event, not Google event, isn't there an event happening on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a hackathon.
Okay, what exactly is a hackathon?
college designers and people get together for a weekend to build something, usually from scratch.
Yeah.
So we had one 2 weeks ago that I went blank on your name. Christy. What? Bye. Christy was one of the winners. So basically, people came on the first day. They met each other and like pitched ideas, and then there was team forming. So people decided, you know, like you have a really cool idea. I want to help out.
come at any level?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not actually in person, sometimes they're online. If you Google hackathons, like one of the first searches that'll come up, or the results that'll come up, is a website that just, I forget what the website's called for the hackathons, but, it'll have a list of all the hackathons around the world, and some of them will be remote, and you can just sign up.
And there's a really great Medium post on what's a hackathon.
Okay. But when you guys say that you have hack nights, it's like you just work.
A hack night is just where you just hack on something. So the word hack means to do something.
Okay.
So I know everyone is always like, "You have hackers? What are you guys doing this weekend?" My mom's like, "What? What are you doing with these people? Why are you leading this event?" I'm like, "We're not hacking anyone, Mom. Like we're building something." Because the word hack came from reporters. Like reporters are hacks.
Uh-oh.
Right.
I didn't know that.
So it just means to do something. Usually you're not very good at it. And somehow it got applied to computer programmers. I don't know why. But they hack on code.
Okay.
So you have actual hackers, you know, who hack into things. But there's the good hackers who show, you know, companies where they have security.
Like white wizards or something? White hats?
Yeah, white hat hackers, and there's a black hat. And then the black ones are, you know, like I think anonymous or white hat hackers. So
There's actually a show I started watching.
Mr. Robot.
That's your rules.
Oh my god, I'm so excited to get into tech.
It's my spirit animal. Without the mental disorder, I don't want that. But the hacking part, yes.
Just the way he like picks apart people in like society, you're like, I think that too. But it's
Yeah.
So did you got your start in dev via the boot camp?
Kind of. I took some classes in college a long time ago, 14 years ago. I took like one class in JavaScript and one class in databases, and they didn't really have anything else. I was actually studying theology. It was a Bible college, but they had added web design because everybody needs a website. So I went to the dean of the students and I asked, "Do you have an internship for your new web design program?" And he said, "No, but we need a website." But everything was done with like Dreamweaver and Adobe, so I learned, you know, Flash and like all of the Adobe suite, Photoshop. So I worked there for 5 years and I built them websites, but I didn't know how to make that into like a web developer job or a web design, because I was like, I'm self-taught. All I've done is built like some sites for, you know, this college, which sounds awesome, but when you're there, you're just like, I don't know anything. And, you know, we didn't have Stack Overflow, or I didn't know how to gain more skills. So I tried taking a PHP class at a community college, but it was online, and I'm not an online learner. And so I was like, I hate this. I never want to learn to program. This is stupid. I'm going to go be a personal trainer. So I went and I worked as a personal trainer. Then I managed a restaurant, then I sold antiques, and then I worked at a disability nonprofit running camps for kids with disabilities, and that was really awesome. But then my husband wanted to move to Austin. He wanted to go to school here, so we moved here, and I learned about Maker Square, and I was like, I don't know, because when I tried that PHP course, it gave me a headache, so I'm not sure if I can be a programmer. But I was always very logical and really good at math. So I took some of the pre-work that Maker Square had, Code Academy, and I was like, this is awesome! Why have I ever done this before? I love this! So I applied, and they had some scholarships at the time for women, so I got a partial scholarship, and then my husband, he applied too, and so we went through it together. That's why we're still married. We bonded through torture. It was the hardest thing I've ever done because I hadn't worked for 6 months and I'd gotten really sick before we moved, and so I'd not been doing anything, you know, so like to get back into like thinking analytically and everything. And I also found out I was allergic to wheat, so the nutritionist put me on a rotation diet, so I lost like 20 pounds. And they were bringing pizza and tacos, and I didn't eat any of it. I was eating like broccoli and chicken. and so I cried every day of the 3 months because I was just like, this is the most miserable experience. I'm stupid. Everyone else here is so smart, and I'm starving. And it was hot. It was 106 because it was July, and we were biking because we didn't want to pay for the downtown parking because it's like $350 a month. So I was breaking out in heat rash because I wasn't used to the heat or the humidity. And I was like, I'm itchy and I'm sitting in class and everyone else is smarter than me and I'm starving. I hate this. And I was like, I'm not gonna get a job. And my husband's like, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm like, we move in with your parents.
Oh, you're getting a job.
So it was funny though because I was one of the first people hired afterwards. I was hired within like 3 weeks after graduating because I went to Austin Rails because we were learning Rails and they had us come and talk. They wanted some of the students to come and talk, only girls. They wanted the girls to come talk. What's it like to be a woman in tech? And I was like, none of us have worked in tech yet. So we all tried to pull things out of our experience. I was like, I used to build websites for a university. But I was like, I'll do it because then I'll be up in front and I'll meet people and hopefully find a job. Because they have a time in the middle where they say who's looking, who's hiring, go talk to each other. And so this really short Jewish lady walked up to me and she's like, do you know any Rails developers? And I said, me, I'm looking. She's like, how much? And so I told her, and she's like, okay, let's schedule an interview. So she had an education startup, and so I interviewed with her. I interviewed some other places that the school found, but then I worked there for 2 years, and it was the hardest job that I've ever had, and I was terrified. She was a Jewish lawyer. I'm crazy, but we have a great relationship. But in the beginning it was hard because she's like, you don't know what you're doing. And I was like, why did you hire me then? Like, you can afford more, okay? So it was really difficult. I was the first like 9 months just terrified because I was the only person. So I was doing the server, the database, and the app. It had launched the week I was hired. They had a company, a local agency, but their developers were in Russia, in the Ukraine, and Siberia. So they spoke Russian, so they couldn't explain any of the code to me. So I was just like trying to figure it out for like a couple of months while they were wrapping up the last few, things they were finishing. And then it was mine, and I just had to learn it. So I quickly found friends, lots and lots of friends in tech who I could meet with. I found a really great mentor who coded with me on the weekends. I paid him in tacos and scotch and whatever he wanted. And he explained design patterns to me. I asked him what blog should I read, what books, what are the resources, because I don't have a team. I'm by myself. And every day this lawyer lady comes over to me and is like, can we do this? And I'm thinking, I don't know. So I got very smart at like, let me research that. I'll find out. Let me see how long that will take us. Maybe never. I will find out. And then after I'd been there for 9 months, I went on vacation, but I still had to be on call. And my husband is half Finnish, so we went to Finland. And I was on the train when I got an email saying that our server had been hacked. And that's like the worst thing you can go through. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to fix this. I'm in Finland. And so I FaceTimed my boss. It was like 3 a.m. here. And I'm like, did you see the email from our server provider? They've quarantined our server. Don't worry about it. I'm on it. And I was like, I'm going to get some internet. We're on our way to the cabin. Because I was checking my email on the train. They have like Wi-Fi everywhere in Finland. It's a really great country. You can get your computer hacked. So in a week I rebuilt the server. I was working like 18 hours a day. I found a coffee shop that had lattes, the only coffee shop in town, and I got it done. And I didn't have anyone to help, so after that, I was like, I've done the hardest thing that you can do, like rebuild a server when you've been hacked and like everything's on the line. I think our site was only down for 1 day, so we didn't lose any customers or anything. We just put up like a maintenance page, like emergency maintenance. And I even figured out like how we got hacked, and it was the Siberians' fault. They left one of our search engines open. They didn't put a firewall on it. And so like I figured that out, and I like fixed everything, and I was like, okay, I belong now. I belong here in this industry. I can do it. So,
Very cool.
there's still been terrible days since then, but
Yeah.
you live every day at a time, and I'm just like, I can Google it, give me enough time, I can figure it out.
What type of server was it? Was it just a
It was
client?
Linux. It
Oh,
was just
Linux.
a metal bare box. They didn't give us any help, you know, it wasn't like Heroku or something. It's like we had to manage all of the services ourselves, and then set up all the firewalls, everything. So I didn't know
Wow,
anything
yeah,
about Linux. I was like, okay, I know the terminal a little bit, but I was like, I need to find like what's running on here. So what happened was we had the open port on our search engine. So a bot had gotten installed, probably automatically. Someone had a crawler looking for open ports on the internet, and especially with this company, because I found on one Chinese forum that I used Google Translate that someone was using this bot, because there wasn't anything on the web about it. So I was like, it's not like it's a widespread attack. It was very focused on our provider and specifically on people running that search engine, because there was a vulnerability if you didn't put a firewall on it. So they had installed this bot that was DDoSing other servers. So it's like sending all of this traffic to other servers. And so our server company was monitoring activity, and they're like, you have all this outbound activity. You know, we don't usually have anything we were sending out, maybe an email or two from, you know, the website, but usually, you know, we had inbound activity, a lot of people coming to our site. So when they saw like the sudden spike in activity, like we had 20 gigabytes of outbound activity, and we usually only have like 1 megabyte, they said, you know, something fishy, you're quarantined, we're gonna, you know, take you down. So I had to fix it. It's awesome.
The question I have for you about Makerspace, how did you find the program?
It was the only code school in Austin.
Oh, okay, at the time.
Yep, it was the first code school, and it was the first class. So it was a little difficult because nobody here in Austin knew what a boot camp was. The companies were like, you went where? Where'd you so you don't have a computer science degree? No, I have 3 months experience. So I don't think I got any questions on design patterns. They were just like, maybe we can have you as an intern. Can you write a forklift? So now, like, they're much tougher, and I think the programs have gotten a lot better. Like the one I went through, it's been 3.5 years, so I know they've rewritten their curriculum like 4 times, and I don't even recognize it anymore. I'm like, wow, you guys really are getting like a CS degree now.
Can you talk more about the imposter syndrome, like how you overcome it? Because you look very confident, and I'm sure that you are. More experience.
Well, I guess that one experience, especially with the server, but also just every day on the job, you know, every small win that I had, you know, I would take joy in it, and I would be at my desk and be like, I'm a genius! Yes! I figured it out! And I still do that now in a room full of developers. I bring the most culture to the office. In fact, our CEO was like, the best experience last week when Holly was at her desk and we had that deadline the next day, and there was that big bug, and suddenly she jumped out of her chair with her arms in the air and was like, yes! Everyone was like, so that's how I, you know, deal with the imposter syndrome. But you know, you take it one day at a time. Everyone's on a different journey. I was hired the same time at this current job as another guy who's been programming 25 years, and they brought us both in as like JavaScript developers, and I was like, he has 25 years experience, and I have 3. But my boss said, I believe in you. I think you can do it. And he made me like a team lead, and I was like, I'm not a team lead. You know, like I'm a junior. And he's like, no, you're not. So I've been fortunate that I have, you know, a boss who believes in me. But you know, if you just figure things out, you know, you do what you can. You read books. You do blogs. I've taken online courses, and so as you get into the job, you kind of start to find where maybe holes in your knowledge are and say, okay, I need to learn some in this area. But also, nobody knows everything. So the guy who's been, you know, programming for 25 years or whatever, like, he knows, you know, a lot of like theory and stuff, but he doesn't even know like all of the newest frameworks. So there are things that I know that he doesn't know. I've had actually more experience working in JavaScript than he has, and we're both the JavaScript developers. And so he'll be like, wow, you wrote a really complicated line of code. And I'm like, really? I didn't know. I thought everyone can use reduce and map and all that stuff. And so it's kind of cool, you know, when you realize, oh, I do know some stuff that are awesome. And then I think working at the startup helped me because I had to do so much that I just became confident that I could learn. So the team that I was team lead of, the other guy had been programming longer than me, and he had like a PHP background, but he had learned, you know, JavaScript, and we were doing an Ember project, and he'd be like, I'm out of my comfort zone, like I don't know this stuff. I was like, I don't know it either. I've never used Ember before. Let's Google this.
Yeah.
Let's read the Ember documentation. And I think just being confident that I can learn has carried me far because I don't give up. I'm like, well, it's not working. There must be a reason why it's not working. I see program kind of like math, and you know, there's always a solution. So I'm like, obviously I've missed something somewhere. Usually it's a semicolon. And then, you know, if I can find it, then it'll all work.
Do you have any tips on like how you would express like that story that you shared? Because I have like some similar experiences. Like I was like doing just like basically like client like support, and then like someone gave me the chance and I got a system admin role, and they were like, all right, here's the open directory server, and I'm like, but you know, like I was able to figure it out. Do you have any tips on like how you can put that on a resume, put that in a cover letter, like how to like, right now I'm struggling with a lot of imposter syndrome because looking for a job is
sucks, it's the worst.
yes. And B like, you know, like I'm like, if you just give me a chance I'll do so good, like, you know, like I was just wondering if you had any insight.
Well, I mean, you can use words like self-starter and stuff, but you know, I didn't put that story on my resume. I definitely brought it up in interviews. In fact, my boss today will be like, that's why I hired her, because of that story. Because they want someone who's going to go the extra mile, who's going to figure things out and get things done, you know, when it's critical and it's not going to panic, even though I was panicking. You worked through the panic. So I would guess, you know, on the resume you could put you know, learned a system, you know, from scratch, you know, or, you know, went from no knowledge to being experienced, you know, system admin, you know, find ways to make it, you know, sound like you've learned a lot. Some companies like, you know, numbers, but they want, like if you're in sales, like made a $10 deal, you know, $10 million deal or whatever. And I when I worked at the nonprofit, worked on some systems that were in Excel, so that's not really programming, but I was like, you know, developed an administrative system that saved 20% man hours. Like it was an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Organized. So, you know, there's ways you can glamour things up, as
Massage.
Chrissy was saying. So what I do usually is I look for the job that I want, and then I Google for like sample resumes. I'll look at some developers, who I follow on blogs or Twitter, and some of them have like their resume on their website, and so I'll look and see like what are they, saying. I'll go on, some of the job hunting sites like Stack Overflow Careers, and I'll see what are the keywords that companies are using in their job, posts. And so then I'm like, okay, you need to say JavaScript. JavaScript everywhere.
Yeah.
Angular, Ember. For my first job, I cited the projects that I had done. So, under experience, I was like Maker Square, built a, in fact, I probably still have it on my LinkedIn, built a, what was it? Built a directory using like Google Maps API, Twitter API, LinkedIn API, that was on Postgres, and Rails 4 or something. So I listed like the things that I had done. So they could see that because they knew I was coming in as a beginner.
Right. Okay.
But I have brought up like my previous experience, and I was like, yeah, I used to do VB scripts and I did SQL queries back in the day. I had one of our mentors at Maker Square, who was a current developer. He's like, oh, I wouldn't say that you've done SQL. And I was like, why? He's like, well, it's very complicated. I was like, yeah, but I used to do it. He's like, yeah, but you have to be like an expert at it. And I was like, whatever, dude. I'm not working for you. And so I've said it in interviews, and I've had people have me write SQL queries, and I wrote them, and they were like, oh, she can write SQL. This is great. So I was like, I'm not listening to you. So take everyone's advice with a grain of salt, even my advice.
Sure, yeah, cool.
You need to do what you're comfortable with. When I've gone into interviews, I've definitely gotten stuck on things. I'm very calm right now. Like I like talking to people, but when I'm out there like whiteboarding, I'll get really nervous. And so what I'll do is I'll say I'm gonna write out the algorithm in English. That's even how I program now. I'll be like, okay, step 1, I need to do this. Step 2, I need to do this. Because once you get into actually the code, sometimes it can get very complicated, and I have to go, what was I doing again? Oh yes. And so I would write out in English, like if they say, parse a sentence and return it backwards, reverse the sentence, or find the longest word in the sentence. So I'm like, okay, first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, collect each of the words into an array, and then like I'm going to loop over the array, and I'm going to find like which one is the longest. So I'll store the lengths, and like the index number, so that way, when I can find what's the longest, then I'll say this word's the longest. And they'd be like, oh, that's very interesting. We like that you do that. We do that too. And so then it would be helpful. And then I'm also very visual, so I drew out like the sentence, and then I was like, okay, so first I need to loop over this, and then I'm going to take each word and I'm going to loop over that. And then as I was going through it, I got stuck. And the guy's like, well, what did you do with your fingers? And I said, what? Fingers. He's like, you're doing that thing. He goes, go back to what you're doing with your fingers. And I was like, oh, it's a nested for loop, of course. So I found everyone was comfortable, like if you're open and you're honest. And I would say, I'm kind of getting stuck here. What would be the next thing you would do? Like, don't tell me the answer, but like, if I was working with you and I came in and was like, I'm stuck, what advice would you give me? Because if you're coming in as a junior, you're going to get stuck. And they definitely want you to ask for help. They don't want you to spend 20 hours trying to figure it out. Spend 2 hours, but then come and say, I'm stuck. So things get done. Otherwise, you're wasting time. So everyone is usually really helpful and be like, oh, well, the next step would be maybe to do this. And then I'm like, oh, of course. And then, the rest of it would fall in place.
Cool.
I also just kind of want to add to that, specifically talking about a cover letter. I don't know
it's kind of tricky if companies ever want to read them or not, but I've noticed that, based from experience of like people that I know that work in HR, and depending on what type of company they work for or how big, they're really into reading them, and they don't really care, like they don't want you, from what I was told, I mean, again, take this with a grain of salt, it's like, we don't really want you to summarize what you're telling us in your resume, like, tell us like who you are as an individual. I remember last year when I was looking for jobs, I wrote very generic cover letters, and someone who was giving me feedback, he was like, I would throw away your cover letter and I would not even look at your resume because it's boring. And he's like, why don't you like tell a story? And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll tell a story. So I started off, I mean, I have to like go back and dig it up, but it's like, it started off like, I moved to Austin a week ago. I moved from Chicago, even though I love Chicago, like this, and I said something that I thought was great about Chicago. I was like, but Austin, like, has this, and I was like, and I really enjoy doing that. And then, you know, I kind of went into my role at my previous job, and I said, these are the things I enjoyed about my job, which is something that you don't really put on a resume. You just put what you did, and you know, you never bash a company, of course, but you say, but I also wanted to learn more of this, which is why it brings me to your company, and I feel like this experience and blah blah blah. And he's like, that's so much better. I wouldn't throw your resume away this time, you know. So I found that was like very valuable because like if you put yourself in like a recruiter's shoes, or whoever's hiring, it's like they're reading so many resumes or so many cover letters, and they're probably going to be interested in something that's very different versus like like what's very very similar or like used over and over again. I mean, I don't feel like everyone else is going to say there's a right one way they like it or another way, so I feel like if you have to write a cover letter, you might as well have fun with it. You don't be inappropriate, but
and write your personality,
Yeah.
because you want to work somewhere where they like your personality.
Yeah,
That's true.
makes sense.
It's true. It's a good story to put yourself into the cover letter so they can see who you really are.
yeah.
And I think it's really good advice.
Yeah, my boyfriend actually, before he was a developer, he was, I don't even know what, he was like a drill helper for a company that did fracking, kind of, or like they did the study for fracking for another company, and he created this really cool video, and he likes to include it, like, he's like, this is what I did before, and it's like conversation starter, and I mean, it's not really relevant, but it's just like, it gives you a little insight into someone else's life, and it could be the same thing with like something you write. Like I remember I wrote, I really like eating ice cream or any dessert of the matter, but I used Google API to find all the ice cream locations based on a zip code or a city. So like that's really like, I've always wanted to create that, and I finally did. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, and then, you know, something you can just talk about. Like, I'm using these technologies, and I really like ice cream. So that's my 2 cents.
Cool.
Yeah, the job I currently work at, the software agency, they had a bunch of questions we had to answer on like behavioral stuff, which normally is like code challenges, but because we all work with clients, they want people who are good with people. And so they said, tell me about a time like you helped, you know, a customer with an issue. Tell me about a time where it didn't work out so well. And I was like, all of my customer experiences when I worked at the restaurant, you know, and they were like terrible. But I was like, okay, like what can I find that would apply to this job? And so I tried to pull out stories that would be interesting. Like there was this one customer who came in every week and always complained about his steak so that he could get a free appetizer. We all knew that he did it. He was a good paying customer because he also bought like a whole bottle of wine. So every week I had to be like, I'm so sorry your steak was not, can I offer you an appetizer or a free dessert? Yeah.
That steak that you ate all of.
Yes. And so it's just like, you know, like you have to learn to deal with frustrating personalities, and that is in any job, even if you're not customer facing. Like, how do you deal with people? You know, how do you problem solve? They're really looking for people who are problem solvers. So if you can think of stories where you solve problems in any job, you know, that's what they want.
I just want to add to what you were saying, because I had an interview several weeks ago at Whole Foods, and they do focus on helping customers and striving up the customer more than people need. And their interviews are very interesting. They have a technical interview, but they also have an initial general interview where they ask people to stand up and say, you're gonna have 5 minutes, and here's all this artwork and construction paper, design something about your favorite food or something, or who you are. It's kind of being creative. So you're putting something together, and then you're gonna have to stand up and tell the story, and they wanna see your creative side come out, even though you may be interviewing for a technology position. So that was very interesting on their part of how they conducted their interviews.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right, they wanna say you problem solve, how you think on your feet, and a lot of people were looking like, there was a group interview at the first one. And so people were kind of stumped at first because they saw this, you know, pencils, pens, colored paper, and you had to quickly do something. So you had 5 minutes. And then
Yeah, companies want creative thinkers. They don't want drones anymore.
Right. So back to what Ophelia was talking about, that's called a human voice cover letter. And basically, like she said, don't reiterate what is already on your resume, because they can look at that when they want to, but speak to them about who you are, your experience, your desires, your whatever, in a way that will engage them, that will make them want to look at your resume, which is like all the other resumes out there. Cool.
What is it? Human voice?
Human voice.
Never heard that before. Cool.
I started drafting out my rap, my cover letter rap, because after applying to like, what is it? It was like, I'm at like 176 jobs so far. After applying to that many, you just have to like start making up stuff just so they get you through it. So I'll let you know how that one goes.
Well, if you want to work for startups, a rap might be the way to go. Any other stories or questions?
I think this session was very helpful, the way you organized it, just having
thanks.
everyone contribute input, because I think we're all in right now in these situations for getting the feedback, whether it's interviewing or just the coding or, you know, boot camps, or it's really helpful. So this is I think my third Women Who Code meeting, so they've all been very different, but very helpful.
Good. That's awesome to hear. We usually send a survey out at the beginning of the year and ask people what are the kind of meetings that they want, so that we can provide stuff you need. So.
Where did you get your earrings?
Where did I get my earrings?
Yeah.
It doesn't ask me anything. So these are Noonday. These ones specifically, I think, are made by women in Peru. So Noonday is a jewelry company that helps women in other countries, you know, third world countries, have small businesses. So I think they started with one artisan in Rwanda, and they like do the painted paper jewelry and stuff, and that woman now employs 20 other women, and like it's awesome because I was watching the YouTube video and like they sing together and they like eat together, and if they didn't do that, like they would be working in the stone quarry or something. So they now have, I think, jewelry from different countries. They're always looking to, you know, bring on more artisans. These are their current collection, and I got them because they're awesome. I like big earrings. So they're shoulder dusters. They're
Brush them off.
They're a little heavy. I didn't wear them all day. But yeah, the first time I wore them, I came on camera with my coworkers and they were like, "Nice earrings." Like, thank you. Be fashionable in code.
What's the name of the company again? You said
Noonday.
Noonday.
Noon.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, we still have lots of food and drinks. We have the room for like another half hour, so feel free to hang out.
What was the camp that you worked at?
I worked for Johnny and Friends. Our founder, Johnny Erickson Kata, she, I think, broke her neck when she was 17. She had to go into it, but now she
Oh, sure.
She started as a
She started in 2013.
My phone is.
Our first one is at one of the.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. My group is Fairfax. And so
No way, oh my gosh.
From,
Yeah, no, I've been in this.
Sorry.
Yeah, check it out.
Wasn't your
Yeah, if you have a lesson.
Yeah, this one's smaller.
Women who code Austin, but then when I find our entire
Fairfax?
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I will.
Yeah, next time we are honest.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
I didn't know
Down there,
that.
I think the art is
Like, I grew up very that's what I did, so, like, I didn't go to college. I went to college also.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Bye, good night.
So,
It was like,
I
I turned
specifically
24,
worked with a
like,
gentleman who was
you know, the computer and
Yeah.
early 40s, but
And so,
mostly
I
was
moved to
around
DC for a
third
year
grade.
and I was like
So
living
we would
there
draw
and
together.
Cool.
then
Awesome.
work just
Thanks.
wasn't going how I wanted it to go. And so I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna mix things up a little bit.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
And
how
so,
your husband
I just got.
I mean,
husband.
your
It's like you
boyfriend.
just
I'm
married
sorry,
me
I'm
off.
really wrong.
You'll,
After these
I think you'll like it here.
Yeah.
Okay, just right off the top, this is too small.
Yeah, I typically usually.
If you email this to me,
Yeah.
I can.
Break it down.
Cool.
Bye, guys.
Bye, it was nice meeting you.
Super into working, by the way, and I
Okay.
make ice cream.
No way!
Have a,
We should, can we hang
So,
out?
personalized, let's get it personalized on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so you're looking for staff, do you have a GitHub account? Create one,
Yeah.
or if you don't, if you already do, put it on here.
I'm at a party, my birthday party was all just alcohol ice cream, so like,
Alcohol.
he got the girls fun and.
There is a.
Rainbow keto, I have been there like 4 times.
Oh, you have? I have not gone there yet.
But there is
Delicious.
delicious.
Private, so that
prohibition.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard of it,
I
I've not been there
have to
either.
contact one of the devs that was working with me over there to just like tell them like.
How many other flavors have you tried?
It doesn't like.
Most of
Right.
them.
Yeah.
I actually went to this vegan ice cream shop. I noticed your dairy was so good.
Okay, now, if you're
I
gonna
don't
do
eat ice cream, I eat cheese.
development, you need
Yeah.
to have a GitHub
Well,
account.
They had very good vegan ice cream.
I love those chicken
She driven 7:15
No, with no milk.
at G-Bank.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure,
And it's the same on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same.
I love ice cream. It's so.
But yeah, no, I had that app
She's
with
so
here, but it's such a.
Like, so when I moved here, I came to my first meetup.
So
I was
like, as
basically
far as like
coming like,
finance goes
I
and
need a
stuff,
job,
you
but I
don't
also
get
need
that
friends.
like when you are growing up.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
There's really no, you learn math and stuff, but you don't learn how to apply it.
So,
finance
yes,
and stuff
I-
like that.
Right.
And I think it's nice to see that visualized over time sort of thing. And again, like, I just love like the emotional stuff. But I was like, oh my god, that's amazing, that's amazing. I just,
The Q&A already?
kudos, so.
Thank you.
The Q&A already
I just
over?
have to-
Yeah.
I wanna go with it.
Yeah.
Chatting.
Hopefully I'll see you on Shark Tank.
Probably not.
Alright, well I have to get going, so.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
I saved
I'm
your
sorry, give
email.
your name.
Aaron.
Hi, Erin, E-R-I-N.
Yeah, that's right.
Hi, Erin.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
So, welcome to Austin. I've
Thank
been to-
you.
Welcome to
to
Austin.
Seattle. and
Yes.
It's a beautiful city.
It is a beautiful city. I love the Pacific Northwest.
It's a really special
Do
city.
you want to use it some more?